Altcoins have been bleeding out, and honestly, it feels like they may never recover, with everyone across Twitter screaming that this crypto bull market is over, and everyone else saying that we should just be buying Bitcoin and avoiding the altcoins. But did you know, right now, the altcoin market share versus Bitcoin is at the exact same point it was almost 5 years ago, just before the biggest alt season in history, and that move was triggered by a shift from quantitative tightening towards quantitative easing, something that is literally happening under our noses right now. The data doesn't show that this bull market is over, but rather that we are transitioning towards a much more exciting time for crypto over the next few months ahead. Therefore, this must be the ultimate accumulation zone for altcoins. And in this video, I'm going to share with you all of the different data and charts, as well as talk about which altcoins I'm accumulating in these zones, ready for the next moves that start to play out towards the end of this year and into earlier 2026. Do me a favor, hit the like button, and let's get into it. Now guys, before we look into that others chart that proves that we're at a generational low for altcoins, just a quick disclaimer. Nothing I say in this video is financial advice. Everything I say is for entertainment purposes only. If you wish to invest in crypto, you should understand that it's risky and you can lose money. So don't risk money that you can't afford to lose, and always do your own research before investing in anything. Now that we've got that out of the way, let's crack on with it. Now, if you've been involved in crypto since the end of 2022, FTX collapse, end of the last bear market, up until more recently, you probably realized this bull market's been slightly different so far. We've had a great bull market for Bitcoin, where it moved from around $16,800 all the way up to around $126,000 at highs back in October, but the altcoins in general have underperformed, only having brief periods where they blew up and caused great deals of excitement. Some altcoins are obviously outliers and have performed well throughout the past few years, but in general, altcoins, let's be honest, have sucked. And that means that my portfolio, and probably your portfolio, are not looking quite how we thought they might be looking by now. Leaving us with two questions in our mind. Should we be selling our crypto altogether and going back to our day job? Or should we be investing into Bitcoin and not altcoins? Or selling our altcoins to buy Bitcoin? Well, let's think about this for a moment. Obviously, over the past few years, Bitcoin has been going up and up and up. It seems to be the strong horse in this race versus altcoins. And that's true, it has been. And if you watched my video a few weeks back where I talked about the book Thinking Fast and Slow, this hopefully will make sense to you. Now in that book, you'll learn that the human mind likes to shortcut different things. So for example, if you're driving and you've been driving for a long time, it's very easy. You change gear, you indicate, you kind of drive along without paying too much attention to what's going on. When you're first learning, however, your slow thinking mind has to kind of take over because your mind hasn't learned the skill yet. So it feels really difficult, really arduous to drive a car. Now when it comes to trading and watching charts, our fast-thinking mind tends to shortcut the system. Markets move up, obviously the chart's going to continue higher forever. This typically causes many people to go and buy the tops. And why many people out there watching right now may be down 80-90% because they probably bought back in December. And the fast-thinking mind then tells us as the market starts to fall that we should be selling, should be getting out the market, okay? Because obviously continuation in one direction. This is our fast-thinking mind trying to take shortcuts. But this is obviously dangerous. Our fast-thinking mind right now is telling us that we should either be getting out of the market completely or that we should be buying Bitcoin or selling our altcoins to buy Bitcoin. But what does our slow, money-making mind think about this? Because remember, the logical mind is the one that we should probably be following rather than the emotional mind that tends to lose us money. Well, this is where this chart comes in very handy. Now, this is the others versus Bitcoin chart. Others are the coins outside the top 10 altcoins, and then the Bitcoin price against it. Now, this chart is a very important one to look at because obviously, you know, we have Bitcoin performing well, we have Ethereum, whatever, and other large caps, but many of us are holding our altcoins outside. And really a true measure of how much risk and greed is in the markets is this chart. Right now, you can see that it is bouncing off of a line that it hasn't really bounced on properly for many years, okay? You can see it basically started April 2017. You had that first major altcoin season. And then August, we start to see a pickup before the COVID crash. This was like the COVID-19 crash. And then we had continuation here. This was the major altcoin season, effectively, that happened in the last bull market. And right now, you can see that we're bouncing off a very similar line. Now, if you didn't know that this was crypto right now, and you were just looking at this, and you were looking at a chart, and you're like, well, it's bouncing across here, chances are it's probably going to be bouncing here. And you can see that it's already started to bounce. It bounced in June. It came down all the way under here on the October 10th, like nuclear kind of crypto destruction day. And then you can see it's kind of bouncing around in this area, just before potentially breaking this downtrend here. Now, if you remove all of the emotion and all of what you feel from these markets right now, and you to look specifically just at the data, i.e. slow thinking, you'll probably realize that the price of altcoins versus Bitcoin right now are probably very good. So does it make sense to sell altcoins at the bottom to buy Bitcoin, which is effectively, if you look at the Bitcoin dominance, at the top? Okay, so Bitcoin dominance is at the top, altcoins are at the bottom. If you're bullish on crypto right now, what would you do? Well, hopefully your answer is, well, we need to know more before we make this decision, because why has Bitcoin been running strongly and altcoins haven't been doing anything and yada, yada, yada? Okay, well, that's a good point. Altcoins, did this run back in this time because of one very important thing that happened in the global economy? And I showed you this chart the other day from Crypto Rover, basically showing you altcoin dominance against the PMI, the Purchasing Managers Index. Now, this basically is a measurement of US companies and how much money they've been spending on kind of hiring, on different equipment, on different investments and things like that, okay? If the market's good and they've been making lots of business, they'll be buying lots of products, they'll be hiring lots of people. This number tends to be higher, but as you can see right now, it is below 50. Below 50 equals contraction, risk off. When we're in contraction, typically risk assets don't do well. We have had obviously a couple of spikes back at the end of 2024. You can see this one that caused that mini altcoin season that we saw at the end of last year, and obviously the other one that came in around March of last year as well, again when we saw a bit of an explosive growth phase for altcoins. And whenever this PMI returns above 50, typically you will see an explosion in altcoin prices. You can see this happened back here, okay? This is 2020. We see that kind of big dip. This is the COVID sell-off, but we were basically starting to rally up from here. This then tops out around the end of 2021 and ultimately causes the bear market that follows. Right now, we're at a point where this is going to bounce. Why does it bounce? Well, it's going to bounce because this is typically controlled a lot by things like quantitative tightening, quantitative easing, interest rates, etc. I told you the other day, if we have lower interest rates, it takes the pressure off of companies. Companies can then borrow money. They can go and use that money to invest in building their company, okay? Going and hiring more people, whatever it might be, okay? That's positive. That shows economy is doing well, okay? Right now, because the PMI is so low and struggling, it triggers the Fed to have to make a decision. I believe today, and maybe by the time this video is live, there is going to be an interest rate cut. Very good chance that it's going to be 25 basis points, maybe even a 50 basis points. But importantly, the headwind that we've been running into throughout this whole bull market has been quantitative tightening, okay? That's gone away. That went away at the start of this month. And another reason he's got to cut is that the repo market's empty, okay? The repo market, the savings account of the Fed, you can see is at $3.2 billion, okay? Was all the way up here, $2.5 trillion. That's bled out. It's gone mostly into Bitcoin, as you can probably tell, because this is the date that the Bitcoin bottom was in, and then Bitcoin started to go higher from here, okay, from the basically December 2022, and then basically it's now here at the bottom. This is what caused the recent sell-off in Bitcoin and the altcoins, but it's going to basically trigger the Fed to have to start printing money because the Fed doesn't want to go broke. And if you're wondering, well, where's all the money going to come from for crypto and everything else? Guys, it's literally coming into the market all the time. This is the USDT market cap, okay? This is just going up and up and up. It hasn't really gone down since, guess what? When quantitative tightening came in back in 2022. Now, this chart here shows you something very important. Quantitative tightening basically started in 2018. Okay, that's what ended the 2017 bull market. And then it ran till 2019. From there, we saw a push up in the markets. Yes, we had that kind of COVID dip that came in and ruined everything. But ultimately, it ran until April 2022. The crypto bull market peaked around 4-5 months before this, anticipating that this was going to come in at some point. Okay, so bear that in mind. The crypto bull market will likely peak before we have max liquidity in the system. Okay, so if everyone's telling you that liquidity is going to be at its max in like June, July, you should be starting to look at February, March as being the top of the bull market. Obviously, we're going to play that by ear as we go. Make sure you subscribe to the House of Crypto so that you can keep up to date with that. We'll be monitoring the data, doing all of the boring stuff so you don't have to, so that we can keep you up to date with exactly what's going on. So then, if we think right now that altcoins give us a better opportunity perhaps than Bitcoin based off of all of the data, based off of all of these charts, and the fact that the ETH versus Bitcoin chart right now is trying to break out on the monthly here. If this actually suddenly moves like this, altcoins will play catch up very quickly. And this is the proof of that, okay? This was the last major altcoin season in crypto. Bitcoin dominance dumped from 73%, okay? It dumped all the way down to about 40%, and it did it from the 20th of December, 2020 until May. That was like 5 months, okay? Massive sell-off. Now, if you can remember back to December of last year and maybe March of last year, then you'll realize this. This was November 2024. Okay, this caused a lot of push in altcoins. We then saw this happening kind of back in the summer of this year. This is why altcoins and crypto have been so damn painful, because we've had these little mini teaser bull markets that have caused everyone to ape in during exciting, hyped up markets. Anyway, if that dump in the Bitcoin dominance caused the November, December pumps, we remember like XRP went up like 5-6x in like a week, Cardano did the same, HBAR was pumping, Sui was pumping, Solana went up, then imagine what a dump like this might look like. Okay, this dump here happened in literally 4 or 5 weeks. Okay, if we get something like this happen, and I'm not promising this is going to happen any day right now, it could be happening over the next few months, and it will happen at some point in a very, very short window, then we want to basically be positioned for when that move happens. Remember, this move is caused by quantitative easing after quantitative tightening, something we are literally seeing happening right now. It wasn't caused by the calendar, it wasn't caused by anything else. Okay, it was caused literally by a move in the macroeconomics, pushing people into risk assets. So here's what happens. Right now, if you go read the comments around this video or on Twitter or whatever, then you'll probably see a lot of people saying things like, the bull market's over, I've lost everything, blah, 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 blah. Okay, angry, depressed, etc. If you go and look at the Wall Street cheat sheet right now, this is not something you see straight after euphoria. Many people are saying that we had a euphoric top in October. I don't believe that we did. I don't remember feeling particularly euphoric. You probably didn't either, okay? Therefore, I believe right now we are somewhere in and around kind of the end of depression, entering into a disbelief phase. Right now, you can see the Bitcoin has been pushing up today. It's at like, what, $92,000. Eventually, it's probably going to push up to like $100,000. You can go across to Twitter and everyone will still be telling you that there's a dead cat bounce coming, okay, where it rolls over and does this. Then what chances are that we'll end up somewhere around $110,000. And those people will be like, there's going to be a dead cat bounce, I'm sure of it. Maybe we get something like this happen, then this happens. This will be max disbelief. Suddenly, we will hit hope phase, where suddenly people realize, actually, the bull market is on. Okay, our fast-thinking mind suddenly flips, and then suddenly the slow-thinking mind's like, oh, you should have listened to me. Now it suddenly finds itself back up here, okay? All the fast thinkers get themselves wrecked because they've all been in shorts. They're then forced to ape back in. But unfortunately, by this point, many of the altcoins, everything else, would have already pumped really, really strongly, okay? Whenever Bitcoin gets back to this point, it's going to cause a little bit of lag before people start to feel confidence. Altcoins will then follow. So right now, where do we want to be looking? Well, Bitcoin back towards those highs is a massive 29%, nothing particularly spectacular, okay? I believe, however, ETH versus Bitcoin is a good marker here. This will likely perform strongly, and ETH will probably be breaking all-time highs sometime around the time that Bitcoin does as well. And we can already see this starting to play out here, okay? So how does the market move? How does the bull market move when it's kind of back on again? Well, confidence takes time to return. Remember, Bitcoin will suck up most of the money first. It's the fastest horse in the race, or has been so far. It's just the first horse to move. You then get Ethereum moving much faster afterwards, but then you'll get a quick move probably by the other larger caps, the XRPs, the Cardanos, the Solanas, okay, the large caps. I'm talking top 10 crypto coins, the ones that everybody knows, the ones that are easily accessible, and the market makers know these, the VCs know this, so they'll pump these coins, everyone then rushes in, gets involved in it, and then they start to push up. Eventually, lots of people have made money in this, and then they start to go, well, I'm bored of getting my kind of 10-20%. Let me go down the risk curve and let me look into other things. So how do we identify those altcoins? Well, before I tell you exactly how to do that, now I just want to show you something I've been doing over on Pionex. Now, you probably realized over the last few weeks and months, it's been really frustrating. Crypto's been going up and down sideways. Now, I set up these grid bots over on Pionex. Effectively, as you can see, it's got these red lines and green lines. Every time the price pumps up, it's selling Solana. Every time it comes back down, it's buying. So even though the market's basically been going sideways since back in middle of November, I've been trading this automatically without even having to lift a finger, okay? It's been basically stacking profits in the background while this kind of goes sideways. So in an accumulation zone like we're in right now, this is a great thing, okay? Because it's helping me gather lots of profits as the market moves on. As you can see across here, you see Solana is up like $1,100, but it's also locked in $140 in grid profits. Coming down through, you can see the grid profits, which are basically all the mini buys and sells, have been stacking profits as well. Now, just coming down to show you XRP, you can see technically it's in the red right now, but it's actually been accumulating profits by being in the trading zone. Okay, so effectively, despite being kind of down on the trade itself, it's still been taking profits off the table, meaning that I'm down $324 rather than being down $388. If you come down to the World Liberty Fire, you can see grid profits are nearly $1,900, but the trend profit is $1,600, giving me a grand total of $3,500. Now, if you want to learn more about these trading bots and everything else, I've got a free Telegram. You can join the link down below. I've set up a video course in there. You can literally follow that course. You'll learn exactly how to copy these grid bots as well as create your own so that you can trade during these trading zones without having to lift a finger. Very, very useful. Make sure you join the link just down below in the Telegram group. And there's lots of help in that Telegram group where you can learn to set them up and also gain support from me and other members who've already done that. Now, how do we prepare for what comes when this happens? Okay. Now, first of all, it's important to know this. I don't know tomorrow, the next day, next week, whether or not this goes up and down, whether or not Bitcoin returns to this zone or that zone. It shouldn't matter because my fast thinking mind might absolutely panic when it gets down here. But actually, my slow thinking mind should be telling me that actually it's okay because I've studied really what's going on behind the scenes and I need to avoid the fast thinking mind in crypto as much as possible. If your slow thinking mind disagrees with whatever I'm saying, that's absolutely fine. Let me know down below the reasoning and the evidence to support that. I'm happy to go and discuss and look at what everyone else is thinking about to make sure that I don't get the blinkers on and get too carried away. But really, everything I've looked at, there's no real argument for bull market is over apart from a calendar. And that's all that anyone has. A calendar and a fast-thinking mind tells you it goes lower. Smart thinking, slow-thinking mind tells me it goes higher. So if I am aware that it can go up and down, all I need to be thinking right now is, how do I buy low and sell high? That's my only job. Well, right now we could see from this chart that we are at a low on the others versus Bitcoin, which means altcoins are at lows versus Bitcoin. So if I want to buy altcoins, I'm pretty comfortable that they're at lows. I might not be able to buy the exact bottom, but I can get in near enough at the lows. Sounds good, right? So we already know that we've got like the good, strong, kind of long-term coins kicking around, the XRP, Solanas, and stuff that everybody loves. You can see that right now this is at a low. Every time since last year, this has bounced very strongly from this zone. Very good chance it probably does something very similar. Solana, similar sort of story. You can see it's at these lows. Everybody else is panicking and worried right now, but it's at a good low price entry. It's cheap price entry right now. Ethereum having a good strong bounce off of this particular area. Now, if you go down the list, however, to like Aptos and Sui and Aether and other kind of like mid larger cap coins, you will see probably a lot of charts that look very, very scary and pretty horrendous. Now, our job here isn't to necessarily think that the chart means that this is a bad project. The chart doesn't mean it's a bad project. It just means that it's newer. It just means that it's got a smaller market cap. It means that the retail investors who've been selling it and panicking enough have driven the price lower. And the project themselves are not necessarily that concerned about it if they've got a lot of money in the bank. So what we should know right now is this. A few projects, Aptos, etc., raised tons of money. And if you go across to cryptofundraising.info and you look down through here, you can go and find different projects. Now, in order to find the likes of Aptos, obviously we can go and search for them, and you can go see how Aptos kind of came about, how much money it raised. You can see it raised $350 million. Okay, you can go and look at Sui. How much money did the Sui Foundation raise? You can then go look at Aether. They raised $123 million. On top of that, they also sold about $300 million of nodes in around 90 minutes. Aether, tons of money in the bank. On top of that, their revenue is like $150 million a year. What do you think these projects will do as soon as greed and excitement returns to the market? Bearing in mind, they've got an altcoin that they can really easily change the price on. Well, simple, right? They go and buy a lot of altcoins. The market makers start to inject money back into the chart. They become the trending altcoin because it's gone up 20, 30% or whatever it on day. And then everyone gets really hyped and excited and follows it in. This is why when the markets start to look greedy and exciting, typically the kind of larger caps, well-funded projects run really strongly much earlier on. Now, not every crypto project has raised tons and tons of money. Some have raised less, but are also using high utility products to be able to generate big revenues. If you go to DeFiLlama.com, you go down to fees page, you can see like Hyperliquid makes $3.3 million a day. Pump Fund, 2.95 million, Meteora, Lido, Uniswap, etc. If you go back to the last few weeks where we've had like strong days for crypto, typically a lot of these projects will be the top performing ones across the board on any given day. Okay, strong performing tokens that have got really decent fundamentals. Okay, from a chart perspective, we're at a very nice point in which every chart looks pretty horrendous. And I know everyone wants to know, well, will this go lower? Will it go higher? Whatever. All you need to do is say to yourself, well, do I believe it's going to go higher eventually? And are we at a good price right now? I'm just going to take a chart. This is Nosana, okay? Deepin project had a very, very good run back in 2024. This was in 2022. It went down 98%. Looked horrendous, okay? In this accumulation zone, would you have been happy to buy? Yeah, probably, yeah. You would have been happy to buy whether you bought at the top of this green box or the bottom of the green box. From the bottom of the green box, you can see it went up 470x. Okay, from the top of the green box, it went up like 260x. It's not a bad return, whichever way you look at it. Buying somewhere in and around the accumulation zone, you're going to be pretty happy. Right now, I believe we're in an accumulation zone. Therefore, it doesn't really matter if we go much lower. If you buy today and everything goes down another 20, 30%, it doesn't really matter, because if you're buying ones with stronger fundamentals, they have a chance to push up higher. Now, I don't believe that all those coins I've listed, like Aptos, Suis, etc., are going to go and do 400x. They've already got big market caps, but they still have the potential to see good returns. So if you go back to DeFi Llama, again, go and look at the different like ecosystems. Ethereum, you know, is going to do all right, but it's already massive, okay? Not necessarily going to see massive upside from here, but it's going to be safer if the market bleeds. Ethereum's still going to be around for long haul. Solana, the same. Binance Smart Chain, the same. Base ecosystem, maybe there's going to be a token soon. You can go and look on the base ecosystem, go underneath and look at all the different tokens on base. This is Airdrop Finance. You can see $283,000 in the last 24 hours. This is a DEX on Base. Likely going to have a strong run once the market continues to grow, because Base is the official chain of Coinbase and all that good stuff. If you go down the list, you can look at like Solana, and you can look at like the DEXs on Solana. Jupiter likely does very, very well. It's up in TVL 462% in a single day. Okay, this is a $3.4 billion TVL. There has literally been billions of dollars added to this DEX in the last like 24 hours or so. Okay, bonkers. Go and look at some of these other ones if you wish. This is where I would be looking. Don't look at the coins that seem to be doing well right now. Just go and look behind the scenes of which ones are actually fundamentally doing well. Okay, Hyperliquid, as you can see, good stablecoin flows. TVL a little bit low, okay, but I would expect that to spike up. Sui, I believe the bottom is probably in for the TVL around here. You can see stablecoins have dropped off a bit today. But I do expect to see this performing well. As an ecosystem, a lot of projects on Sui quite strong, but they're smaller cap. They will be more volatile if market gets up and down in the next few days. Now, I don't know what's going to happen in the FOMC speech later on, but it's worth tuning into. Whatever happens, we are likely going to see some volatility. I do believe that we're going to see a rate cut. 0.25 makes sense, but we know Jerome Powell's been a bit strict on that over the last few months. But it doesn't really matter, because next year we're going to get a new Fed chair in. The other important point to make is, I know you're also holding altcoins that may not appear here, okay? And that's up to you. They're going to be more volatile. They'll take more time to mature into kind of exciting opportunities, but that doesn't always matter, because actually those ones you need to kind of position early for, because they only need one shout out from an Alex Becker or an influencer of sorts, and then they're going to go up like 4 or 5x if the market's greedy enough. Okay, we've seen it happen before. It will happen again. Now, these are all layer ones and also kind of DeFi products. If you're looking into like Deepin and everything else, then make sure you're kind of identifying on the websites basically all the different things they're doing, all the businesses that they're basically interacting with. So Aether, for example, go across to Twitter, check out their performance. Price of the token very undervalued right now, in my opinion. You can go and look at others in Deepin world that are actually servicing clients, and you'll start to find ones with good fundamentals behind the scenes. Also, this is probably a bit rogue. I'm just going to go out there. I know I don't often talk about this, but actually, like a Hail Mary kind of bet here on what might do well in this kind of zone is some of the larger cap meme coins. Why? Because a lot of the supply of these meme coins are held by the teams. It's pretty shady what kind of goes on behind the scenes, but I believe a lot of these guys will just pump like crazy their coins. They're all hidden from sight. No one knows who they are. They can pump these coins really aggressively and likely see some good upside. So if you were going to go after meme coins, go after some OG ones available on Binance, etc., like the WIFs of this world, the Bretts. Might not be a bad shout from here, but obviously go and do your own research and all that good stuff. In general, this is probably a throw a dart at the dartboard kind of moment for high utility / larger cap coins that will likely have good runs at some point into 2026. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Do me a favor, hit the like button. Let me know down below which coins you've been buying in the recent months. Let me know down below whether or not you are personally buying altcoins or you've been selling your altcoins to buy Bitcoin. Hope you enjoyed today's video. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.